Please join me in welcoming producers Teddy Schwarzman and Andrew Lazar, Bonnie Stoll, the real-life Bonnie Stoll, and the director, Chai Vasarhelyi. Congratulations on the film, all of you. Terrific story. Chai, I want to begin with you. You and Jimmy, of course, have made a number of remarkable documentaries that are themselves nail-biters in many cases, and here you've made a nail-biter, but you have a true story. You've got a lot of archive footage to work with, but you're also weaving in and shaping the story for dramatic purposes. Can you talk about that process?
It's tough because everyone asks me what's the difference, and I would say the difference is Annette Bening and Jodie Foster. Because the construction, a story is a good story, right? Like you construct many things, but it's very different, let's say at Free Solo, where we waited 2 years for Alex to say, I love you to his girlfriend. Whereas, with Annette and Jodie, they're like, we can do it. We don't even need words to say it. Like it's just like a different caliber of emotional access. Mm-hmm. And so but it was the same sort of fun and delight of like messing with structure and seeing how we can evolve and seeing if the nonfiction material will work within it. But then you get these big guns, like you've got Alexander Desplat doing your score. It's like suddenly the resources are quite humbling, because and things go faster because you got more editors. It was really fun. It felt more like having tools for creativity that we'd never had access to before.
Thank you. And Andrew, can you talk about just deciding on telling this particular story? This is a story that many of us would have followed in the news, or if you were following endurance sports, you would have known about it, but to turn it into this movie, and I know that you started that and then Teddy and others came on board, but can you talk about what was the motivating force for you?
I mean, it started, I read her book, and then I met her, actually. Diana's agent's in the crowd, so I gave her a lot of credit. And she met a whole bunch of people. And I just was super passionate about the story because I love the idea of an undying dream, and I love the idea that it's not like it's a crazy dream. I mean, it's 60 hours, 100 miles. Most people don't have that kind of, I love the t-shirts that say extreme dream. Mm-hmm. But I think that people, we limit ourselves, we forget that we have dreams. So I just was totally touched by the story. And then, the reason, I just want to say, Chai and Jimmy, the thing I loved so much about Free Solo was the love story. And that to me was this guy's, Alex is kind of extreme and crazy, but it was the love story that they accessed that made them so right for me and Teddy, I think. Because it was the relationship between Bonnie and Diana. It's ultimately the event is the swim, but it's the heart of the movie is this, friendship that's really, really remarkable.
Thank you. Teddy, anything you want to add in terms of your participation?
I mean, Andrew was quite good.
All right.
No, look, I mean, I think that it's a singular story. It's someone who just believes deep in their core that they have something more to offer the world. And I've always been really attracted to not only underdog stories, but stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I think Diana, there's a little, while Diana is not the easiest person always, as you've seen through Annette, she is an extraordinary person. And in meeting with Andrew and in meeting with Diana and hearing the idea of bringing this story to the screen, it had just so many layers, both on a friendship level, but also on just that inner drive, that inner will, and what we all leave behind. I think we just wanted to do something to honor that.
Bonnie, love your shoes.
Thank you so much.
First of all.
I borrowed them.
Can everybody
really.
see Bonnie's shoes?
Bonnie upstaged me tonight.
All of us. So this is your story. You lived it. And you were one part of that core relationship in the movie. What did you tell Chai, what did you tell the producers that you wanted to make sure they got right about their relationship?
I didn't have to tell them anything. They do their job better than anybody, so I didn't have to say anything to them. They knew what they had the story, and I think it honors everything about the story on this film.
Well, I would also say we were lucky that, from the time that Andrew first partnered with Diana and then we first partnered together, it was about 6 years, maybe a little bit more from the time that we really got to production, and now, a little bit more than that to here. And so in the process, everybody really got to know each other very
Yes.
well. And even when Annette and Jodie joined the project, we thought we were making it at one time period. Because of weather and other circumstances, we pushed it actually 9 months. And in that process, not only was Annette able to really transform from a physical standpoint and really, just master the swimming aspect, but everybody was really able to get to know each other and bond.
It was a family. It was, Diana and I were lucky enough to go down to the Dominican where the movie was shot, and there were 400 people on this crew, and I never saw one person sitting down. Everybody was working. Everybody was doing their own job at the right times. It was so impressive.
But I will just say, to Bonnie and Diana's great credit, they took a leap, and they were incredibly gracious and brave, and I don't know how you did it, because it would drive me nuts, and let go. And they let us run with the story.
Diana barely lets go.
No, but she did. She did, right? Like she couldn't get to us. You guys came to set the last day. It's like, that's scary and amazing, but it really was this privilege to be able to share this story and to have the freedom to really kind of dive in, so to speak.
And the box jellyfish expert is our genius, and she happens to be here tonight with us. Angel, I don't know where you
stand up,
are,
Angel,
but
and just
stand up.
wave.
Stand up.
I think
Oh, she's up there. She's up there.
I've been saying she's as passionate about her science, and her science is like an art, and she's as passionate as any filmmaker I've ever met. It's amazing.
That is heroic work. I would not want that job, so thank you, Angel, for doing that. We want to open it up to you in a moment for your questions, but Chai, the last thing I want to ask you is something we haven't talked about yet. We often see stories of 60-year-old men doing remarkable things, but it's rare to see this story and to have these two amazing actors portraying this story at their age. First of all, why is that still unusual, and why did you want to tell this story about them now?
No, it's kind of like a pinch me moment, right? I was like, not only do we get to make our first narrative feature, but it actually has two incredibly juicy roles for women of a certain age, and that allow you to see them. I've come up with this. It's like Diana is a millefeuille, the French pastry of 1,000 layers. So it's delightful, but it's complicated. Yes. And it was, it was a real honor. And Jimmy and I had been looking for something which put a woman at the center of the story, and kind of, bracing ourselves for how it would rub people the wrong way, or the language that would be used around the movie. But I have to say, to the great credit of our producers, of our studio, everyone believed in the film. And I think it was a personal thing for everybody involved too, because there's some relationship between the extreme athlete and the artist. And I think that, everyone, it was a hard shoot. It was the Dominican Republic. It was very hot. It was the pandemic. It was all these things. But no one was there unless they wanted to be there. And that, because, Claudio Miranda, who's our DP, he shot Life of Pi and Benjamin Button and Maverick. So this was because he wanted to do this film. And the same thing for Alexandre Desplat. He wanted to do this film. I think that there's just this thing where most artists know, that dream is critical. That dream is what we live for. And it's about the craft that gets you there.
Thank you.
I would also just say very quickly before we turn to the audience that it is such an honor and such a privilege for the four of us to be up here, but we are also speaking with before being on this stage and texting with while we're here, Jodie Foster, Annette Bening, and Diana Nyad.
And Julia.
And Julia
Ryder.
Cox. And just a quick round of applause because they care deeply and want to be here. So.
Annette trained she swam for 9 months, literally before we started shooting. 9 months of swimming, and she still swims to this
She found
day.
a passion.
I think it was a year.
Whatever.
Well, 9 months before we started shooting, and then she swam all the way through. And Jodie Foster, I love the fact, that Bonnie is a trainer and in very good shape, and Jodie was working out 3 hours a day, and you saw those abs. Those are real. They're not airbrushed. There's no 300 going on here. That's her body, and they both were totally committed, and I think that when you see actors that are that committed to a role, and they vibrate off screen. It just makes it fun. It's challenging, as Chai said, but it makes it fun to show up every day to see number 1 and number 2 on the call sheet just so passionate about it. And I'll just say one other thing. Julia Cox unlocked the relationship between Diana and Bonnie, and we brought her on to do the work with Chai and Jimmy, and she crushed it.
But back to Cameron's question, I think that number 1 and number 2 were always so consummate professionals because they were these two women who are amazing professionals, who also are mothers of many kids, and just do it all. And I think that they set a tone that everyone had to match.
Yeah, that's good. They're pros, and they never knew each other really before the movie, and they loved working together, and it shows.
I want to see more movies with these two together, actually. It's
Yeah.
a great pairing. I don't know what else we can come up with for them, but we'll figure it out. All right, over to you now. If you've got questions, and we like questions a little bit more than comments, honestly, if we're going to be honest about it. But questions for anyone up on stage just now. So let me just see if I can. Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Start to finish, just spectacular. And I'm just curious to know how long did it take for you to film, start to finish?
Love the film. How long did it take to film start to finish?
I want to say 45 days.
I was thinking 40.
No, it was 44.
44.
Right, it was,
Okay.
oh, that's right. But we had a 45th. But
Yeah.
we were
Cut
doing
it.
so well.
We cut it,
Right.
yeah, to afford a fancy something,
Right. But yeah, the schedule was a work in progress. There were some scenes that were pivoted based on weather, based on locations, based on what we found in the DR, despite, sort of a few years of script development. But Chai and Jimmy did a wonderful job that I probably shouldn't be speaking on their behalf, but of being both methodical and instinctual of what's available to maximize the story, what's going to be visually intriguing, and yet focus on character first and foremost.
And Netflix just going with it.
I would also say that Chai and Jimmy, to their credit, started as first-time narrative directors, started with the water work, both out on the ocean and in the tank, and just said, let's do this. And that's ready. We should be ready. And just dove right in, pun intended.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, back here. Question is, how do you and Jimmy work together as filmmakers?
Creatively, no. So Jimmy, for those of you who don't know, Jimmy and I are married, and we're also filmmaking partners. And there's this Venn diagram idea where 1 + 1, when you've got the two circles, there's a tiny sliver that overlaps, and that's our films. If we both agree on something, we know there's something special. And then that also applies to kind of the two of us together kind of can become more than two, right? Become three. In that, Jimmy has an incredible, cinematic eye. He's got a full-fledged career as a National Geographic photographer, and he is still a professional athlete. And, I like words and feelings and women. It's just and so it's this
Jimmy,
really
Jimmy
interesting.
also likes women.
Jimmy likes women too, but you know what I mean? I'm interested in how much can we get away with? we can make it like testosterone heavy in some ways, but are we really doing something else? And it's fun, but I would say that like, Jimmy and I normally in our doc work, we kind of trade off because we've got 2 really small kids. And for this, it was like the most time we'd ever spent together in one place as a family, which was like, who knew that after 12 years of marriage, you can grow and you can become like closer creatively and also drive each other nuts. But like, it was a really interesting experience in your 40s to realize you can grow, not only in your relationship, but also creatively.
Jimmy's on expedition right now. What is he doing?
Climbing.
It's unbelievable what he does. All right, time for just one more question. Anyone up in, I can't see any hands. Yes, right here, go ahead, last question.
I'm just curious, were Annette Bening and Jodie Foster your first picks? I can't get over when I watched the real footage, how similar the appearances. Were they the first picks, or just casting? I know none of you have been agents, but
Question is, were Annette and Jodie your first choices? The resemblance is remarkable.
It was always going to be Annette. It had to be Annette. I'm not sure why. Like in some ways, it's because we were committed to casting age appropriately, and we really needed an actor who was excellent at their craft, but also willing to do the work. Because so much of the role was the work, was the physical preparation to be able to handle the grueling days on set, but also that, Annette. It's just incredible. Like it was really important to her that the stroke was consistent. So we had like the 3 best stunt doubles who were age appropriate, right, available in the Dominican Republic, and she would like watch us and make sure we never used them. Because she's like, and I was like, we're honest people, I promise you we will not use them. And in terms of and Jodie Foster, like that was like a miracle. Like I don't
even think we
didn't dream of Jodie
we didn't
Foster,
dream
yeah.
of Jodie. Like that was a dream too big. Like we knew it had to be Annette and we needed to ground it. But I think that we got Annette actually opened up the door to get Jodie. But quite frankly, Jodie Foster playing Bonnie, we didn't even dream that big, quite frankly, until we got Annette, and then that opened the door.
And I would say in terms of the resemblance, that's entirely Annette and Jodie, where they spent a lot of time with the real Diana and Bonnie, and kind of like they brought these mannerisms that I was like, that's weird, you got it. Like even like Annette's study in terms of how to look exhausted after X amount of hours in the water. And then, some nice smoke and mirrors, like, magic that hair people do and stuff like that.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you.
Please join me in thanking again the team from Nyad. Thank you so much. Teddy Schwarzman, Andrew Lazar, Bonnie Stoll, and Chai Vasarhelyi.